Good morning. The role of the witness, the observer, the watcher is understanding. Perhaps with this in mind, keeping this in mind, with this in mind, perhaps you've noticed a tendency of those around you or those, or even yourself, to wittingly or unwittingly adopt a persona. Persona serves the purpose, it's a cloak of protection. Perhaps it separates, keeps a distance, insulates you from the ravages of the world, of those around you. Perhaps a better analogy is a veil of protection, because I like the idea of a veil where one can see out, but no one can look in. This is indeed the role of persona, so that no one can really truly know who and what you are. There's a fear, it's based on fear that maybe the other found out who you really were, they wouldn't like you much. Now, personas can be in the guise of the tough guy. We've all known people that take this role. Culminates in a bully, but not to take it to that extreme. To be tough in the face of everything. To be stoic, I think, is a better word. Then there's guys of the nice guy. I've had a couple of friends that took the persona of appearing to be not as intelligent as he truly was. Plain dumb. And he perfected it. Kind of a goofy, kind of a shucks, kind of a persona. And again, with the goal of protection. And then I had another friend that it's not so much he adopted it, he just embodied it, was the last little boy at the circus. This was a propensity he had, but he just capitalized on it and utilized it and refined it. For me personally, I tried the persona on for size of being a nice guy. But the problem with that was that I really wasn't that nice of a guy. My handicap of judgment, critical judgment, not in the sense of critical thinking, evaluation, critical judgment in the sense of criticizing. I took my judgment to the extreme and kept it to myself for most time, but based on criticism of the other, which at the root, if you think about it, not too hard, at the root of it is the fact that you think you're better than the others, which is never so. So I'm trying to review a little bit here. I don't really want to miss anything. So where I'm going today, I started with a assumption of a role, of an adoption of a persona. And now I want to use this to lead it to, because the ones that I've discussed previously lend itself to separation, division. I'd like to look at some practices that we might have, some things that we might adopt that might lead us to union. Vedanta, as you know, as I've spoken before, Paramahamsa Yogananda was autobiography of a yogi, was really my first solid introductory to spiritual inquiry. And Paramahamsa practiced what we would call bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga, the path of devotion. And I went on to understand that there's essentially 4 different paths. The paths of self-inquiry. One would be bhakti, which would be most connected to loving kindness. Bhakti is devotion. And I'll go into more detail about each of these as we proceed. But devotion, loving kindness. Karma yoga, the path of action. Selfless action is the key, the path of selfless action. Jhana, which is the search to grow knowledge into wisdom. And Raha Yoga essentially is self-inquiry, rigorous self-inquiry. It's really interesting I've spoken about numbers. I mentioned about my love of 3, 33, 33, 33. My love of 3. Well, Buddha and Buddhism talked about 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, as the primary tenets of Buddhism. Well, 4 and 8, and I'm born in 1948. So I have this affinity with both of those numbers that seem to be very important, or really at the heart of Buddhist teachings. But I mentioned Paramahamsa because he was a Hindu. He came from India. He came from the Hindu. He was a yogi. And the school in Hinduism was the first thing I really delved into. And I stumbled upon Vedanta Hinduism, which introduced yoga. Yoga as the union of body, mind, spirit, soul. 2 dualities, really interesting, 2 dualities, body, mind, spirit, soul. 2 dualities that I've been very interested to the point of absorption. talking about the four paths of yoga, this union, how to get to this union of the four elements. The four elements correspond to the four paths. And before I go into detail, I'd like to share with you that if you have a propensity, if you have a tendency towards one of these four, which I'll briefly go over now, that you could practice that path of yoga. The first one I want to talk about is compassion. Compassion is most closely related to the path of karma yoga. The idea of selfless action. Service, seva, is a big part. Practicing seva, doing work for others with no sense of return or reward or no need or no desire for, just for the act of service, called seva. If you have a tendency to work with the sick, help the old, teach the young, if you like to be active, if it's important to you to keep the physical part of the two dualities or four yogas, karma yoga, I might suggest. The third would be devotional bhakti. If you're loving and kindness, and these are the expressions of what you practice, these are things that you have a tendency towards. Then I suggest bhakti, the path of devotion. Again, we'll go into these in more detail in just a moment. And somehow I lost count, didn't I? I started out with the path of action, karmic yoga. And then I talked about bhakti yoga, compassion. No, karma yoga is compassion. Bhakti yoga is loving kindness. Jnana yoga, that's number 3, is the search for knowledge that will result in wisdom, the study of sutras, the studies of the dharmas. And the 4th is called Raja yoga, which, if you're looking for joy, if joy is of great importance to you, I suggest that Raja yoga. So let's make it simple. Equanimity, jnana yoga, the path of knowledge. If that's equanimity, seems doable, seems appealing, seems like something that you resonate with. Action, selfless action, karmic yoga. Devotion, kindness and love, bhakti yoga. Rigorous self-inquiry, resulting in a joy, that's Raja yoga. The Vedanta mentions another number, 5 fears, 5 causes of suffering. First and foremost, not knowing who we are. Secondly, attachment, clinging to things that are impermanent and having expectations. Aversions, trying to avoid things that are not real. Number 4, identifying with the ego and creating separate realities. Number 5, fear, the big one, I think, for many of us, most of us, fear of death. Well, fortunately, the Vedanta suggests or gives us a solution to these 5 fears, a simple solution. It tells us that by correcting the first one, the first cause, which was not knowing who you are, seeking a solution to this by asking, by questioning, by any one of the 4 paths, is all aimed at knowing who you are. And the easy part of this sounds like 5, overcome 5 obstacles. The easy part is find out who you are. And the other 4, attachment, aversion, identifying with the ego, and fear of death, fall by the wayside. So I think that's encouraging. Now, how do we know who we are? Well, by becoming a yogi, by practicing union of mind-body, body-mind, and soul and spirit. I can put mind, body, soul, and spirit. I gotta hide my thumb. Try that again. And you see the dualities there. And, well, dualities is something we've talked about before. But let's start with what people would consider, most pundits in Vedanta, adherents to Vedanta, teach that bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion, that, well, ultimately to the divine, can be directed to the guru, your family, a friend, anything that creates strong emotional ties. That's the key, emotion. This bhakti yoga, devotion, is considered the easiest path because it can be practiced by anyone. Anyone that's driven by the chaos and the confusion, that's bothered, that wants some kind of peace and solution. Is this loving kindness. It doesn't require other extensive practices that the other 3 might entail. But bhakti is the path of love which removes jealousy, lust, hatred, anger, egoism, pride, arrogance, and replaces these feelings with feelings of joy, divine ecstasy, bliss, peace, and wisdom. So through this loving kindness, you reach the goal of the other 3 yogas without some kind of rigorous practice. You feel this connection, this thread of connection, of pure love, connecting you to the divine. And that's what you focus on through the guru. And another beauty of this bhakti yoga, people will say that I don't have time, I have a family, I have children, I don't have time to practice any kind of devotion. Any kind of yoga, any kind of search for union. I have worldly chores, worldly duties, I have those to care for. Well, the beauty of this is that the very caring for your children, your parents, the work that you need to do, the secular work, the mundane work, the everyday work that wouldn't allow you time for other practices, is the essence of this bhakti yoga, this practice that requires only love, kindness, devotion. And you can use your family as the center. It doesn't have to be a guru. You can use your family as the focus of your devotion. And by focusing on your family with devotion, with kindness and love, will lead you to love of the divine, enlightenment, awakening, one path. A bhakti yogi, a bhakti yogi is the practitioner of bhakti yoga. You become a yogi when you practice one of the four paths of yoga. A bhakti yoga incorporates these types of things. You ask what it is that you long for with the deepest level of my being. You're pure in thoughts, words, and actions. You look at the divinity in the ordinary. This is in your family or anywhere that you want to find it. Honors and respect of all life. Purifies the heart through devotion. Surrenders by being open to everything. And finally acts as a servant, a friend, a mother to the divine in everyone. Which leads us to karma yoga. Karma again is action, and karma yoga is performing action without attachment, selfless action, no attachment to the outcome. Seva, selfless service. And ceasing to identify with ego and action as seen as offering to the divine by your action, by your seva, by these selfless acts. It's your gift to the divine. It's your show of sincerity to act without expectations. This purifies your heart of the same things: hatred, jealousy, selfishness. So you see the common thing. All these four yogas are aimed at eliminating negative aspects of our condition and replacing them with positive. So if you would like to, well, let me tell you a little bit about a karma yogi, and then you can see if you fit this mold. Lives life with passion, but remains dispassionate about the outcome. Is effortless and graceful in all things. Has a loving, friendly nature. Is sympathetic, compassionate, and tolerant, rejoices in the success and happinesses of others. Feels neither above or below anyone. speaks and acts truthfully. And this kind of karma yogi, he or she should maintain a strong and healthy body, bear insults and compliments, comforts and pain equally. Equanimity, have faith in themselves, knowing that the divine will always love them. Be adaptable to any situation, able to mix with everyone. Have a calm mind. Be fearless. So if these things appeal to you, then the karma yoga, the path of action, might be what you want to consider. Now we touch on number 3, the one that leads to equanimity. And equanimity was a state of mind that appealed to me, and it seemed attainable. It seemed like not only was it something that I wanted to emulate, but it was something that was within the realm of possibilities that I could accomplish in this lifetime. So jhana yoga is the path of knowledge, leading to, again, wisdom, in its means of enlightenment through the process of reason, particularly the process of discrimination between what is real and what's not real, what is true and untrue, through study and self-inquiry. It's said to be the most difficult because it uses the mind and intellect to go beyond themselves, to finally realize you are one with the divine. Maybe it's likened to walking on the razor's edge, where the ego is always trying to knock us off. It requires great strength of character, willpower, and intellect. When asked a question, first ask yourself, who's asking the question? You study the teachings of the masters, the Dharma, the sutras, but most importantly, you study yourself. It's a study of yourself. And a jhana yogi studies the spiritual texts of higher traditions, the sutras, right? Teachings, the dharmas. Reads the words of the great masters. Asks the heart the following questions and listens to the answers without judgment or evaluation. Who am I? What am I? What is my purpose? What are I grateful for? What am I grateful for? We must remain mindful of the surrounding world. Listens, reflects, contemplate. Practices discernment, detachment. Meditates and takes time out each day to be silent. Jhana yogi stops worrying about what is being said, but asks, why am I seeing it? Reflection. Life begins to be seen as a dream. So that's what I fit. I got on this path by the fact that it's most directly focused on equanimity. Then the 4th, Raja, means royal or king. Just as a king retains maintains control over his kingdom, you must maintain contact over your own kingdom, of your territory, of your mind. It's the path of meditation, mantras, techniques. The basic theme of Raja Yoga is that your perception of the divine self is obscured by disturbances of the mind. If the body and mind can be made still and pure, the self will instantaneously shine through. This path is probably most familiar with to Westerners. Because it stresses direct experience. In fact, the understanding of Zen, people understand Zen to mean the stilling and the quieting of the mind. To conquer the mind is to know peace, to stop the internal dialogue, to understand, to experience, to embody clarity. Well, this will bring peace. Peace and quiet, people who, if you desire peace and quiet, this might be for you. But there is some misunderstandings here when it comes to the mind. Because they stress a very difficult, the path of doing nothing, which is really stops most Westerners in the track. Doing nothing gets you nowhere, right? But I think it would be better explained as achieving, acquiring the concept of nothingness. If there's nothing, there's stillness, there's quiet. So it's not about doing nothing. It's about acquiring the state of mind, acquiring nothingness, the state of mind where nothing would interfere with your peace. Your peace that would lead you to joy. And the joy will lead you to bliss. But the sustainable state of those three would be joy. I've said before that bliss for me is to be enjoyed in bits and pieces and small. And maybe it's tough for me because I have struggled with clarity. I struggled with quieting the mind. In fact, I've pretty much given up on quieting the mind. I settle for taming the mind. Yeah. And what would be the characteristics of a Raja Yogi? This maintains balance is key here. They talk about the middle way, about balance. Balance in sleep, diet, lifestyle, and work. Be in harmony with nature's rhythms. To be pure and non-judgmental. Take responsibility for your higher life. Control your higher emotions. Remain free from worries. Avoid distractions. Trains his mind through techniques of meditation. So, this last one, the path of the Raja Yogi, seems to be what most people, most Westerners, I'm going to have my coffee, thanks. Most Westerners. Cheers. Most Westerners see Zen in this last of the 4 yogas. Control. Mastering the mind. Accomplishing clarity. But to me, Zen is all these things above. But Zen means to me the quickest way home. And whichever one of these 4 yogas, 4 paths of yoga, that resonates with you, whether it's equanimity, joy, love, or selfless action, that appeals to you as the most doable, the path that you could follow, that gives you immediate rewards that you desired, that you wanted, that you sought. Would be your Zen, whichever one of these 4 makes most sense to you. And you see that the elements of all of them, and there's elements in all of them, in each and every one of them. Even though these paths appear different, there's only really one yoga, one union. We may be drawn to one path or another, but they complement each other. As the saying goes, right? All roads lead to Rome. So all paths lead to enlightenment. The paths are 4 different strands, if you want to look at it. 4 different strands woven together. 4 different spirals woven together. But it's the same, becoming the same rope. Each one strengthened by the others. A rope becomes stronger because of the wrapping of the spiral strands, the 4 strands. So choose whichever aspect of each one of these paths resonates with you and begin to incorporate that into your life. Look for joy in your daily practice and let it guide you.